Commitment begins with a man named Lee Young-ho sipping soju in a little shop run by an elderly woman who is a North Korean spy, similar to Young-ho, a North Korean intelligence agent. He has recently finished a covert operation in South Korea. However, on his way home, he is encircled by South Korean police. Young-ho, who is in a corner, shows no opposition and plans to turn himself in. However, he is shot dead for his suspicious demeanor. The scene then shifts to a jail where siblings Myung-hoon and Hye-in are imprisoned. Myung-hoon and his sister were purposefully imprisoned to ensure that their father, Young-ho, was on a mission in South Korea. Colonel Moon Sang-chol, Young-ho's boss, then summons Myung-hoon, who is 19 years old, and offers him and his sister freedom in exchange for becoming a North Korean intelligence agent. 2 years later, the scene features a North Korean secret spy known as Big Dipper from Unit 35. Big Dipper is tasked with eliminating all North Korean spy agents from Unit 8, while the government forces that shadow them are at odds. On the other side, Myung-hoon finally arrives in South Korea to complete his objective. Myung-hoon is adopted by a husband and wife who are both undercover North Korean spies. He eventually changed his name to Kang Dae-ho. Dae-ho goes to a nearby high school to polish his disguise. After presenting himself in front of the class, he takes the only available seat next to a quiet student called Lee Hye-in. It was a coincidence that the girl's name was so similar to his sister's. During recess, a gang of delinquent students approach Dae-ho and Hye-in's chairs. They plan to bully Hye-in. One of the delinquent pupils greets Dae-ho by wrapping his arm around his shoulder. However, Dae-ho brushes it off roughly. Because he is arrogant, they threaten Dae-ho and summon him to the school's rooftop. The delinquent pupils conspire to steal Dae-ho's money. Dae-ho attempts to keep himself from fighting because the implications are grave. However, his patience is wearing thin, especially once one of the tormenting pupils discovers a photo of his family. He snatches his family photo and carefully places it in his pocket, irritated. Just before the bullies were going to beat up Dae-ho, a teacher arrived on the school's rooftop and dismissed them all. Dae-ho returns home and receives a delivery containing a cell phone. Shortly after activating it, he receives a phone call from Colonel Moon, who orders him to assassinate Big Dipper. Colonel Moon then instructs Dae-ho to visit a pharmacy and pastry business, owned by North Korean intelligence agents in Unit 8, just like himself. The pastry shop owner gives him a gun to kill Big Dipper, which is hidden in the cake. After learning the addresses of Big Dipper's guys, he quickly visits them and encounters a chubby man who refuses to disclose any information about Big Dipper. He kills the man after failing to obtain any information. Dae-ho checks the man's things and discovers the address of the butcher shop he frequently visits. He then heads there. A butcher gives him a piece of paper with Big Dipper's license plate number on it. However, as he is about to leave, the butcher attempts to kill him. But he defeats him and kills the man. Long story short, Dae-ho locates Big Dipper's automobile and proceeds to follow him. While driving along the highway, the motorist appears to notice that someone is following him. The driver then speeds, attempting to dodge Dae-ho's pursuit. The automobile then slips and crashes the road divider. Dae-ho couldn't help but flee the murder scene after a small accident drew the attention of so many people. The following day at school, Dae-ho finds delinquent pupils bullying Hye-in and brings her to a room. In the chemistry lab, the delinquent pupils extort Hye-in's entire savings. The girl tries to beat off the bullies, but her shirt is torn, revealing her panties. Dae-ho, who expected the delinquent kids to beat Hye-in, eventually beats them all up. He can easily defeat the school thugs. He then lends Hye-in his shirt to cover her entire body. The following day, Hye-in misses school without explanation. Dae-ho, who is concerned about her condition following yesterday's bullying, attempts to locate her address through the delinquent pupils who frequently abused her. Fearing that Dae-ho will beat them up again, they finally reveal the address where Hye-in works. When Dae-ho arrives, one of Hye-in's coworkers informs him that Hye-in stopped working yesterday and has decided to quit school. Hye-in recently trimmed her hair short. She goes to Dae-ho to return his shirt. She then asks Dae-ho to pretend to be her brother so that she can be accepted to work in another high-paying position. Dae-ho is delighted to help. Hye-in then discusses her experience living alone and trying to support herself when her parents died. Dae-ho becomes moved and empathetic after hearing her narrative, despite the fact that his circumstances is no better than her own. Big Dipper, on the other hand, is already aware of Dae-ho's identity and has found his home. Big Dipper instantly kills Dae-ho's adoptive parents and destroys the house's treasures. When Daho returns home, he discovers that his adoptive parents have been murdered and that their killer, Big Dipper, is waiting for him inside the house. A heated confrontation between the two North Korean intelligence agents is unavoidable. Both of them excel in close combat and possess exceptional fighting abilities. However, Daho outperforms the much more senior Big Dipper, ultimately murdering him. Daho then burns down his house, as well as the remains of his adoptive parents and Big Dipper, leaving no trace behind. Daho feels his duty is fulfilled now that Big Dipper has died. To that goal, he visits a small pub run by the elderly woman shown at the start of the film. It appears that every North Korean intelligence agent who has fulfilled their assignment in South Korea will visit the bar before returning to their home country. However, before the woman can pour Daho a drink, he falls unconscious. The next day, Jung Min, a South Korean intelligence agent, investigates Daho's burned-down house. Jung Min and his partner discover the school characteristic pinned to Daho's uniform among the ashes of the fire. After completing an inquiry, he discovers Daho's true identity, a North Korean agent named Lee Myung-hoon. On the other hand, the old woman who owns the pub looks after the fainted Daho and feeds him food when he wakes up. While enjoying his lunch, Daho tells the elderly woman about his family. Daho then shows the woman a family photo, and she learns he is Lee Myung-hoon's eldest son. While at the tavern, he receives a cell phone packet indicating that his assignment in South Korea has not concluded. Colonel Moon contacts Daho via cell phone and assigns him a final task before going to North Korea and rescuing his younger sister. Colonel Moon tells him to take all of the treasures that Big Dipper and his companions confiscated throughout their campaign. The plunder the colonel was alluding to was a diamond worth about 40 million won. To keep Daho from defecting, Colonel Moon delivers a video of Hyen's condition. Seeing his sister's happiness, he is determined to finish his task and return to North Korea as soon as possible. Daho rushes to a building that is supposedly used for buying and selling diamonds. He defeats everyone present and steals a diamond valued millions of won. That evening, he returns to the bar to say goodbye to the elderly woman who has assisted him since he returned to his home country. He also takes the opportunity to meet Hyen and say farewell before departing for the dock. While waiting for the ship to return him to North Korea, a guy stabs him and says, "No agent ever comes home." Fortunately, he can still fight back and kill the man. At the same time, the South Korean intelligence agency's special forces apprehend a North Korean spy cell masquerading as South Korean citizens. All North Korean intelligence personnel in Unit 8 have been captured, as has the tavern's owner and elderly woman. Daho, who is nearby, witnesses the police shooting the elderly woman dead for attempting to fight the police. Daho can only mourn silently while seeing the old woman's awful end. In his rage and anguish, he retreats to Hyen's house to hide. When Hyen gets there, he instantly helps Daho and treats his injuries. When Daho is sleeping, Hyen sees a newscast on television about a group of North Korean intelligence agents who are on the run. Hyen sees information regarding Daho, who is on the wanted list. She ultimately discovers Daho's actual identity. But she couldn't bear reporting Daho to the police because the young man had been extremely kind to her. Hyen then visits the grocery to buy groceries. After returning from there, she is visited by Jung Min, who is aware of her close relationship with Daho. Jung Min then questions Hyen regarding Daho's whereabouts. However, Hyen lies, claiming that she never saw Daho again. Jung Min then gives Hyen his business card, instructing her to call him if she discovers any information on Daho. Long story short, Colonel Moon visits South Korea with Daho's younger sister. Colonel Moon assumes that Daho has defected and is now supporting South Korea. The colonel then contacts Daho, informing him that he has landed in South Korea with Hyen. He invites Daho to meet him someplace and deliver the gem. In exchange, the colonel will release his sister. Behind the door, Hyen carefully listens to Daho's chat with Colonel Moon. Before seeing Colonel Moon, Daho writes a letter to Hyen, asking her to be willing to care for his younger sister in the event that something horrible occurs to him. A worried Hyen then phones Jung Min and informs him of Daho's position. Meanwhile, Daho finally encounters Colonel Moon in a parking garage. Daho sees Hyen in a tethered automobile. Hyen, who also sees her brother from a distance, becomes terrified and attempts to cry out to him. Daho shows Colonel Moon a black bag full of jewels. However, just as Colonel Moon is about to hand over the diamond, One of his men attempts to shoot Daho from a distance, but is successfully stopped by South Korean intelligence operatives. A shooting between intelligence officers is unavoidable. Colonel Moon attempts to flee the scene by car, believing that the situation is unfavorable. When Daho sees his younger sister being dragged away by Colonel Moon, he instantly pursues her. Colonel Moon's escape does not continue long because the police have encircled the area. Colonel Moon manages to flee and Hyen is apprehended by police. Daho, who observes the crime from a distance, flees to avoid arrest by the authorities. On the other hand, when a South Korean intelligence agent secures Hyen and Daho's personal items, one of Colonel Moon's men murders the agent and kidnaps Hyen. Colonel Moon then telephones Daho and threatens to kill Hyen if he does not turn over the jewels. Daho, who is becoming increasingly frantic, telephones Jung Min and offers to turn himself in to the police once everything is cleared out. He then asks Jung Min to allow him to speak with his younger sister. Daho is relieved after hearing his sister's voice, whom he has missed so much after being gone for so long. Daho cries in disgust at his bad fate. However, he must complete it so that his sister may live happily ever after. Daho eventually arrives at the spot where he would meet Colonel Moon. Daho presents the colonel the diamond. However, he has no intention of giving Colonel Moon what he wants because he has been using him all along for a few goody gems. Daho then throws the diamond away and begins shooting Colonel Moon's men. After successfully rescuing Hyen, he detonates the explosive he had planned to murder Colonel Moon and his troops. When Daho and Hyen are preparing to go, one of Colonel Moon's remaining soldiers attempts to attack Daho. Daho attempts to fight back and orders Hyen to leave immediately. Colonel Moon, on the other hand, appears to have survived the bomb detonation and is still standing. However, just as the colonel is ready to kill Daho, Jung Min arrives, resulting in another gunfight. Daho eventually kills Colonel Moon, but he receives a terrible gunshot wound. Jung Min and Hyen rush to save Daho and transport him to the hospital. However, on the way to the hospital, Daho, who was already dying from his injuries, draws his final breath in the arms and screams of Hyen, who is crushed by his death. The film concludes with Hyen walking with Daho's younger sister. They converse to each other while remembering Daho when he was still alive. Hyen attempts to fulfill Daho's final desire, which instructs her to always protect his sister.